Hi guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ndara Siwera, and in this video I want to talk about 3 ETFs that are outperforming the S&P 500. Okay, so for some of you who do not know, ETFs are a group of shares that you buy in one transaction, so you can get different companies that could be even focusing on different businesses. This can give you a direct diversification, and it can moderate risk that are involved with purchasing any individual share. Okay, so ETFs are created to mimic certain indexes, sometimes are created to mimic certain sectors or commodities. Okay, so that's in summary what ETFs are. And I'm looking today into 3 ETFs that are outperforming the S&P 500. Okay, so before we can even start on mentioning those ETF, I would like by starting by describing what the S&P 500 is. Okay, so firstly, the S&P 500 index was created in 1957, and this is an index that represents top 500 companies that are representing American economy. So it's like the largest companies. It's companies that have a market capital of 5 billion and above. So these are like serious companies, right? So this index is normally used as a benchmark for performances of a lot of funds. So a lot of fund managers, when they're gauging the performance of their funds, they use the S&P 500 as a benchmark. Okay, so even some people gauge the performance on an annual basis of their full portfolio with the S&P 500. So hence I felt like it would be important to see if there are any ETFs that are outperforming these S&P 500. So before we can go on to these ETFs, I just want to mention that I'm going to be using the S&P 500 from 10 times. I think it's called core share. It previously used to be called core share, and the reason why I'm using these ETF, it's because it was the highest performing S&P 500 ETF in 2023, and I'm going to be measuring this performances based on last year's performance, 2023 performance. So the S&P 500 from core share was able to achieve a 35.07% in 2023. This is big. I don't know if you guys have watched my previous videos, but for me, a good ETF is any ETF that gives me a performance that is above 10%, and 35, it's already 3 times what I anticipate. So this is literally good, right? So these ETF in general, the S&P 500 has done well in the past. So I'm just going to be using these core share one to tell you how it has been performing in the past. So in the last 5 years, annualized performance for the S&P 500, the core share one, was 20.24, and in the last 3 years it was 19.71%, and in the last year I've already mentioned was 35.07, and in the last 3 months it was 10.60, and year to date currently, now it is in April, I think it's April the 7th, and it's currently sitting at 12.02%. This is a really good performance. We've only been into the year for 3 months, and this is the performance that it's giving. So I'm happy with this, right? And the total expense ratio is also one of the considerations that I look into when I'm looking into ETFs. So I thought to check what the total expense ratio of the core share S&P 500 is, and it's 0.35%, which is also good, right? So this ETF from core share was created in 2016. So it's important to know this because it's not like it's been alive since the inception of the S&P 500 index. So this was created by core share in 2016, and it does not pay dividends, right? One of the characteristics of this ETF is that it invests in equity. So it is mainly companies, individual companies, right? So going into the companies that are outperforming this index or these ETF, Let's start with number 3. Number 3, it is the MSCI India, provided by Cetrix, right? This ETF was created in 2022 and it is the newest member of my portfolio. I've just recently added this, and I'm going to talk about why I added it in another video, right? Because I'm expanding my portfolio. Okay, so in the last year, this portfolio actually performed, this ETF, the MSCI India, performed at 43.2% last year in 2023. That's like 50% growth. That's huge, right? And because it was created in 2022, we don't really have the last 3 years and the last 5 years. And in the last 3 months, it's sitting at 7.12%, and year to date is sitting at 9.31%. And its total expense ratio, it is 0.8%. Okay, so it is a little bit on the expensive side because I normally consider ETFs that are between 0 to 0.5 when I'm looking into total expense ratio. Okay, but for an ETF that is achieving an annual performance of 43%, well, I guess they can charge us 0.8%. We won't mind, right? So that's the performance of number 3 ETF that has been outperforming, or that is currently outperforming the S&P. The S&P 500, the core share one. And just a little bit of description on the objective of this ETF. It tracks large and medium segment of India market, right? Like I said, this is the newest member of my portfolio on my tax-free savings account. I just bought it, right? So it is an ETF that has a mixture of industries. You'll find financial companies in there, you'll find IT companies, you'll find consumer discretionary, as well as energy companies in there, right? So that's number 3. Sitting at number 2, you guessed it, is Nasdaq 100 from Cetrix, right? I kind of anticipated that Nasdaq would compete with S&P 500, and it's good to see that it is actually here, right? And the Nasdaq 100 index tracks top 100 companies that are listed on the Nasdaq stock exchange that are non-financial. Okay, and its total expense ratio, it is 0.48, sitting at my comfort level of less than 0.5. And about 50% of these companies are actually IT companies. Okay, and looking at the performance of this ETF in the last couple of years, you see that in the last 5 years it performed at 26.35. In the last 3 years it performed at an annualized performance of 20.65. In the last year it performed at 45.62, guys, almost 50%. That's like great performance. In the last 3 months, we're sitting at 10.61%, and year to date it's sitting at 10.63%. I am still hoping for greatness from Nasdaq 100 this year, and I am holding this ETF, and I am planning on buying more of Nasdaq 100 going forward. Okay, sitting at number 1. Sitting at number 1, we have the information technology S&P 500 that is sitting at 52% year to date. I know, right? That's like sickening. Yes, in terms of performance, not year to date, in the last year, it did 52.01. That was really, really great. And in the last 5 years, it did 30.92. In the last 3 years, 27.47%. And in the last 3 months, it was sitting at 16.42, and year to date is sitting at 14.93. This is really an amazing performance. So these are the 3 ETFs that have outperformed, or that are currently outperforming the S&P 500 index, right? And I think that if you're looking for to amend your portfolio, if you're looking to adjust your portfolio with high performing ETFs and aggressive ETFs that can give you high performance, these are some of the ETFs that you can consider to add into your portfolio. Please remember that none of my videos constitute as a financial advice. This is for educational purposes based on my own personal experience. Guys, I give airtime. So if you watched until the end, give me a purple heart on the comment section, and also send me a DM at Zwanda_Nana, and I will definitely send you an airtime to reward you for watching until the end. Keep it a secret. It's between me and you. Goodbye.